call this meeting to order. This is the Morgantown City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, May 30th. The time is 7:07 p.m. As a reminder, Committee of the Whole meetings of Council are intended to provide an opportunity for Council to receive information, ask questions, and identify policy options in an informal setting, and no official action will be taken at this meeting. We have the following presentation scheduled. Mountain Line Transit Update with Dave Breppy, the CEO.
Hello, Mayor, members of Council, Mr. Hawes. Good to see you this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come speak to you. And if it pleases the chair, what I thought I would do is go ahead and make a presentation on the sort of the state of transit and then give you all the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'd like to tell you is that since our transit system was initiated in 1996, it was a consolidation between the city and the county, we've provided over 18.6 million rides to residents and visitors of Montague County. This year's ridership, we're at about 72% of where we were pre-pandemic, and that's pretty much on par with the national average. We've seen a lot of changes, structural changes, a lot of community changes, of course, working from home. Also, the enrollment at WVU has an impact on our ridership. But we've also seen a turn of events where there are people that started using public transit during the pandemic and they've continued. So we may have seen a decrease in ridership among our WVU-related faculty, staff, and students, but we've seen an increase in other populations. So if we compare pre-pandemic numbers, that 72% is a total, but WVU ridership is only about 65%. And of course, that 5,000 decrease in enrollment that we all just learned about, that probably has an impact on that. Compared to 2019, 70% of our ridership was affiliated with WVU faculty, staff, and students. So we're 17% off of that number. And I don't know how much of that's going to come back, but our projection for this year in 2023 is about 700,000 rides. And that's our peak in, it was probably about 2013 or 2014, was 1.3 million rides. So we're slowly climbing back to that number. And it is encouraging to see the different groups of people that are using transit. We're seeing more families, we're seeing more working people, we're seeing more seniors, and we want to encourage that. Right now, our budget for this coming fiscal year is proposed at $8.2 million in our operating budget, and we have $5.8 million in our capital escrow account. That includes $1 million in operating reserve, which is set aside for things like U.S. House rules issues and maybe debt ceilings where we don't know if we're going to have cash flow, or whether it's a continuing resolution. We learned a long time ago that we need to have funds set aside in case our federal funds don't come through in a timely manner. Right now we have 80 employees. We have 42 revenue service vehicles. 16 of those are brand new this year, and the oldest bus in our fleet is a 2019, which for the condition of our infrastructure and our fleet, that's pretty remarkable compared to where we've been in the past. To build our service in the past, we used to borrow or recycle vehicles that other systems had retired when they were past their useful life. So it's been a long road to get to this point. And really, we're in the best overall shape that we've ever been as a transit system. We'll provide over 100,000 hours of transit service this year. A couple of the major projects that we're working on that you'll see at least initiated, if not completed this year, we have about 2.5 acres that we call Lot A. It was originally a park and ride lot, and that's above our main facility in Westover. That'll be developed probably for additional bus parking, storage, probably a new bus wash, and a new fuel farm. We're looking at acquiring 3 liquid propane gas vehicles as a demonstration this coming year in those are low emission vehicles. The fuel farm will be up there, the new vehicles, those are about a $500,000 investment for those 3 new buses. We are also anticipating, and what I've budgeted funds for, is to offer the Transit Authority Board a free ride program for senior citizens. So what we did was reduce the actual expected revenues from Farebox, and we still have that 75-cent fare that we've had in place since we were created in '96. But we have budgeted to provide for free senior citizen transportation if the board decides to move forward with that. We also are planning for increased service frequencies, some different route alignments that should help people make better transfers, and expansion of our Ride Mon service, as well as a third trip a day, every day on our Gray Line service that goes to Pittsburgh Airport and Greyhound. And that's something we've really struggled. We've had the funds to do that for a while, but we haven't been able to get drivers. We have been pretty successful in recruiting drivers. In the past year, in the past 12 months, we vetted over 400 applications. We actually contacted and began the interview process for over 100 candidates and have hired over 50 drivers in the last year. So the turnover rate for transit's always been about 35%, but during the pandemic and the whole shakeup in the transportation industry, that's going up to 50 or 60%. So it's been a real challenge just to keep people coming in and running the buses. That's been our biggest consistent obstacle. Some of the other major projects that we're going to work on, I mentioned the bus replacement with the liquid propane vehicles. We're also building out we had some unfinished space, and we've expanded our staff, so we're building 4 new offices and a new conference space. We are also completely rebuilding our customer service center at the Pfeiffer Terminal. So that project should be completed later this year. Both of those inside jobs should be. And hopefully you guys can come look at the new customer service terminal when we get it completed. It's really, when that service space was originally designed, it was designed for Greyhound, and they were a tenant, so it really wasn't set up to be our main public service space, and the redesign, I think, will be much more inviting for our passengers. We also have set aside funds to participate with the city of Westover in sidewalk construction that is along DuPont Road across from our facility. That would give better access to our services for the Westover community. And we plan to redesign our driver break area and conference room to upgrade their facilities as well. The other thing that we're working on, a big project, we're moving into digital fare collection, so we want to create an open loop fare collection system where people can get on and pay their fare with either a credit card or a debit card or any kind of fare format that they might want. The other thing that I wanted to mention, just for some of our passengers, because we've been talking about it, is our Ride Mon service. We had an agreement with Uber whereby we used their technology, and you booked our vehicles with our drivers and our branding using the Uber app. Well, Uber notified us in March that they were going to discontinue their partnerships with all transit in the country. So we're getting kicked off the app, basically. But we've come up with a new app. It's called Spare, and it'll be branded Ride Mon. We'll make a big push to help our riders transition to that new app and the new technology. And it has some real advantages over what we're used to with Uber. The first thing is that you can actually book an arrive-by time. So with Uber, you just know when the vehicle's going to be there. You have to time it out yourself. Well, this will actually time your route for you, so if you need to be somewhere at 11, the technology is going to help you get there at 11 or before. The second thing is that large groups like senior centers or like the university, they'll be able to control their own portal to say who's qualified to ride. So we can create a billing structure with third parties, and they can actually authorize users. That's probably going to be very valuable for social service agencies as well. And then the third thing that the new technology does, it allows us to better coordinate with our fixed route services to make those connections. So the smart tech in the Ride Mon will know when our bus is arriving and be able to coordinate your ride if you need to transfer to go to another point. And as one last final reminder, we have a board opening for you all, an appointment for City Council. So I wanted to remind you of that. And we'd be happy to onboard anybody that you might send our way. And at this point, that's really all I had to provide you in a formal presentation. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions anybody might have.
We do have an applicant for that is scheduled to interview in the coming weeks,
Okay,
so we
great.
will see that. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Brook?
I have a few, if you don't mind.
Counselor Queckie?
First of all, let me congratulate you. I've seen this bus service and its progress over the years, and it's remarkable what it is today as comparison to what it started to be. So thank you very much for that.
It's taken a village. Thank you.
And I believe it, but I also believe it took a lot of effort, and I compliment you on your activity too.
Thank you.
Just a quick with the university. Do we bill the university, or do you charge the university per student, or is this a flat rate?
We have a two-tier contract. One part of the contract, they pay 100% of the cost of service for the campus PM, for the blue and gold, for the Valley View service, and for the, what did I miss? I think it's just 3. So they pay 100% cost. Oh, there's a little bit of Sunday service that they subsidize on the gold line. They pay the fully allocated cost at $80 an hour for that, approximately. Then we open up all of our ridership to all the other routes, and based on the previous calendar year's ridership, we charge in tiers that's equivalent to the 75-cent fare. So if we have 18,500 riders, then we're going to charge $15,000, and it goes up in those tiers. If that math was right, maybe it's the other way around. But we do charge the same full fare, and it's based on the previous year's ridership, so we're incentivized to go out there and encourage WVU faculty, staff, and students to ride. That's been a very successful program since 2002, I think. And we started with the campus PM service because nobody really wanted to run that late night service, and we saw it as an opportunity to do that, and it's been successful, and I think it's probably one of the more undervalued services that, you know, in any community, especially a college community, could have in place.
It's had numbers of names, I think.
Yeah.
But a very worthwhile service, I agree. Do you anticipate difficulty or problems now with the diminished population?
Well, I think we'll see decreased ridership, of course, among the student population. But based on the comments that President Gies made and with my counterparts at the university, I think that they understand that the transportation option is focusing on the students, and that is their stated goal, is to make sure that the students are provided for. And, you know, with the cost of school and tuition being one of the considerations, being able to come here using that Gray Line service and then not have to have a personal auto once you arrive in the community, that's a financial benefit for the family and the students. So I think that public transit definitely has a line that serves the same focus and effort that the university stated.
It's good to hear that you have that cooperation and participation. And you mentioned the Gray Line. That Gray Line to Pittsburgh, the addition of a third, primarily to serve the airport and what have you, or is just are you seeing that kind of customer?
Yeah, we've always had a demand for it because we've had the early morning service that arrives at 10 o'clock and then the 9 o'clock at night. And this will be a 2 o'clock service that'll get to the airport and Greyhound at 5 and return at about 6. So that fills in that middle gap.
I was gonna ask if there was any research done in terms of convenience of making various connections. In other words, can the airport provide you with, something that would give you a better understanding of when your clients should be at the airport?
What we've done is look at their schedules instead of asking them to participate. We're a pretty small player in their arena, but we have looked at their flights back and forth, and we know that most of the services in the airport close at 8, and the latest flights that are coming in you know, most of the Western flights and West Coast flights, they're going to get in by that 9 o'clock time. The 5 o'clock just gives you some options for the earlier flights to come in. Or if you want to, you know, if you want to go out and you're going to take a red eye to go west, that's going to be a much more convenient time. But it does interline better with the Greyhound services and the Barron's bus service. We're actually a piece in the Greyhound line that connects Pittsburgh to Charleston and Point South. So in conjunction with us and the Ride 79 that's provided by Barron's bus, that makes that corridor connection for people to move around. And of course, we don't just serve Morgantown. This is an intercity service that serves Clarksburg and Fairmont, Morgantown, Waynesburg, and then into Pittsburgh.
And I think we should probably, if we're going to do a little publicity for you, we should mention that they're brand new buses, and also you're relatively inexpensive in terms of cost in getting people there.
Yeah, $15 for a ride from Morgantown to the
I
airport.
couldn't do gas for that amount.
Now I'm not sure you can park for a day there.
Yeah.
So, not unless
Yeah,
you want to
it's
walk when
excellent.
you get there.
Well, thank you. I don't mean to hold you back. I am appreciative of what you're doing now.
Thank you very much.
Meg?
Tell us about the Scott Avenue route and how that's gone.
It has tremendous amount of ridership on it. It's increased probably threefold from what it was. We still have the challenges with the pickup and drop-off points, particularly downtown on Chestnut Street. I've spoken with County Commissioner Bloom about that in the past, and some of you as well. And the challenge that we face there is the way the services are structured at Hazel's House of Hope. When the residents or the temporary occupants there are asked to leave of a morning, they all leave at once. And of course that means that we're going to bring a bus full of people downtown all at once. And the location, you can move your location to a different point, but it's going to have the same effect wherever you move it to. So as far as a different bus stop for that service, there's really no service, no stop that's been identified as an ideal situation. And the authority board would be more than happy if City Council and the County Commission, some of the law enforcement folks, or anybody who wanted to participate would like to try and come up with a mutual solution. The authority would be more than happy to work with you guys on that. The challenge is just where do you, anywhere you move that stop to, you're going to have some of the same issues.
So, not as much with pickup as drop off, or both?
Well, what I've heard more is the drop-off of
Yeah.
a morning, yeah. But I think that's probably a matter of perspective of who you are and when you're there and how you have to interact with the passengers that are getting off the bus. As far as a social service benefit, I think it's been a terrific benefit for the population it serves. The folks at Hazel's House put together a collaboration, and I think you all contributed funds as well, so that the rides on that are free. And that was one of the challenges for us when Emily and I talked about this once upon a time, was how do you actually validate a pass for somebody without scaring them off? And the best solution was to provide free transit service on that, or subsidized transit service on that route. And from that standpoint, it's worked. It's been very successful to get people back and forth between downtown and Hazel's House of Hope.
Have other area agencies or businesses noted the uptick in business and appreciated it, or I don't know if it has effect for
Well,
some of the larger retail establishments in the area, for instance?
yeah, well, Sheetz, I have heard, not directly, but I have heard that they've had concerns about the location of the bus stop. And some of the folks at the Justice Center, who I assume are traveling between the Justice Center and Sheetz to to buy snacks or lunch and that kind of thing. I know that they have, and again, this is third party, but they have registered some concern
Yeah.
about that stop in that location.
So I'm registering that, but then I'm also wondering, on the Scott Avenue end, if some of the entities that are up there have noticed the uptick in service, or that their clients use it more often on the positive. Like, for instance, if I were Walmart and I were up there, or if I were one of the entities on Scott Avenue, they might notice an uptick in bus ridership by virtue of the fact that they could just get on it and not have to worry about a fare.
Well, I don't get very many of those comments, so I would remember it if I did, but no, I haven't heard that one.
Perfect answer. And then between propane, which you're using and going toward electric, and then any other kinds of fuels in our mountainous region, how does it all compare and contrast?
Electric's a problem for us, and I've studied this pretty extensively. I took a trip to Missoula, Montana. They're also mountain line, and they had a goal of becoming 100% electric fleet by 2025. And so I have a page and a half of issues that they've encountered just as bullet points. The cost is about 3 to 1. So for every diesel engine bus that you can buy, you're going to have to spend 3 times as much, because you need 2 electric buses. They don't have the range without being charged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the technology's gotten better, but it's still not to the point that you can run those vehicles in our terrain and run the heater on them. That's another issue. They had to put diesel heaters on their electric buses to operate them. Yeah, that's, and as you know, the batteries lose effectiveness in the colder weather. They have a half-life of about 6 years, and the buses we buy we're required to keep them for at least 12. So you've got a major expense somewhere out there in the future. The Federal Transit Administration has a requirement that you can have no more than a 20% spare ratio, because they don't want us to have a bunch of extra equipment sitting around not being used. And they haven't made any exception for electric vehicles, which we need 2 to 1 to be able to operate them. The charging systems on those buses are 480 to 880 volt requirement, which in our facility, we only have 3-phase electricity, so you would have to upgrade. You have to upgrade your facilities. Then you have the challenge of what happens with an electric bus when you lose electric power. Do you have a contingency? Missoula's answer was that they were beside a rail yard, so they had an agreement with the railroad company to use a diesel engine as a generator to be able to charge their buses. Was pretty good as far as a solution.
Creative.
Yeah, but that won't work for us. The other problem we have in facilities is the fire suppression system. We have a water sprinkler, and we have a sprinkler system in our garage. And a water sprinkled system will not put out an electric bus fire. And there have been a couple of facilities that have been lost because there's been an electric bus fire and burned them down. You have to have extra training for your maintenance folks. They have to know how to work on these buses in rubber suits and rubber gloves, and the voltage is really serious. It's more difficult to get anybody to do auto body work on them, because they also have to be trained in high voltage and how to work on those vehicles. You also have to negotiate with the power company your rates. So what kind of rate are they going to give you? What time of day are you going to charge? Is it peak or off peak? That can be a challenge with some of the power companies. We didn't get that far in our analysis. And then there are just a few minor things like poor tire wear because they're so much heavier. There's no extensive maintenance history, so there isn't a transit system that you can call up and say, hey, here's our problem. Have you experienced that yet? There's not a good network or experience in that regard, so that's another challenge. And the list gets longer.
Yeah,
but
I think
there are
we're
a lot.
good.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
So that's why we're looking at liquid propane instead of electric. And then at the point that electric comes along a little bit further, you know, it's
Yeah.
definitely a viable solution for us. I just don't think it's there yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other
I knew you'd be
questions?
prepared. I knew you would be.
Just have a question with regards, you mentioned 50% attrition with your drivers.
Yeah.
Are you down? Are you able to staff fully?
Today, we're down 4 drivers.
Four.
So that, you know, we have 62 operators, and we've been as low as 42.
Wow.
And that was at the point where a call-off could cause a cascade of missed service.
Yeah.
We're actually doing better than most transit systems in the country. We went to the extreme of creating an HR position, which an organization for 80 people usually doesn't have. But when you think about trying to process 400 applications a year, you got to have somebody doing that full time. And that's really been a key. It took the load off of all the rest of the staff that was trying to do that interviewing process. And then we have really spread out our marketing. We've done television, radio, newspaper ads here, Pennsylvania, North Central West Virginia. We might have even done some targeting with pixels on other places that we know hire operators to try and recruit them. And I think this summer you're going to see us in the Black Bears ballpark doing some advertising. So if you're there watching the
Wow.
game, you're gonna see the opportunity to come apply for a driver job.
That's wild.
Wow.
Maybe you should do what the school system just did. They had if you have a driver's license, you can test drive a bus, like last weekend. I tried to convince my husband to take me. He wouldn't do it.
Well, we also, another key was we bought passenger buses because our ridership was down. We bought passenger buses that didn't require a CDL. And we had 6 of those vehicles so we could hire people without a CDL, take 6 months to train them, and we created a funnel to be able to move people up and get their CDL passenger endorsement.
Good.
Nationally, there's a lot of conversation right now among us transit folks about creating a transit-only CDL, because what we're seeing is we will train people for their CDL, and then they'll leave for a higher-paying job.
Yeah.
And if you had a transit-only CDL, that would short-circuit that whole process.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for what you're doing, and
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your support. And City Council's been a great partner over the years, you know, for all those 27 years. And I really appreciate council and the community, what you've contributed to building that service. We couldn't have done it without you. So.
I have more, I guess, comments than I did questions, and maybe you can have responses to them. When I was riding the bus for a while recently, I did have some difficulties. Most of the time it's fine with the Google Maps function, you know, where you
Yep.
can just kind of see where you're, what lines you need to be taken to get where. I did have some difficulty around University Town Center. It seemed to not find me rides like ever. And I would ask, like, I would try to find if that particular line was down, and it wasn't. So I wasn't sure what was going on there. If it was probably just like an error with Google or something, you know what I
It
mean?
was us. It was broken.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, then you already knew.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that I was having issues then. The other thing I had issues with, at the time I was kind of low vision. And so I had a lot of trouble reading maps that you guys had like out. And, you know, I couldn't read my phone either.
Right.
So it was like, it was a little tough. Like, your drivers were great when I would go up to, like, because I would leave Ruby and kind of go up to the little depot, and when I would just like go up to the door and ask them, where does this bus go?
Yeah.
They were really nice and good about like trying to figure out where I was, and then or where I was going, and then making sure I got there if that's where they were headed. Very accommodating, honestly, to you know, putting me in a spot where I wasn't necessarily a bus stop, but was like closer to my house. But you know, that was a difficulty. And the other thing I had thought of at that time was like, if I feel like I've seen in other public transit systems where when the door gets open, it says what the line is, like out loud, and then says where the next stop is or something like that. But those were just like difficulties I have when I was not like crazy difficulties. It's actually a really good experience. for the most part. That digital payment thing, I think, is really key. It was a little tough just because I think I had to pay in cash, if I remember right. Is that correct? Right?
Or you'd get a change card.
Right. Yeah, you get a change card. That's right. In order to ride, so like a digital payment option would be really like transformative, I think, for the bus ride system, kind of like it was for our parking system.
Yeah, the low vision, I'm glad you brought that up, because we have some services that we offer. We have a mobility coordinator, and it's Kelly Leneve. Kelly's been with us for quite a while. She'll actually one-on-one ride with people and help them plan out their route. We also provide large format maps. And I'm sorry no one offered that to you. They should have. We also have Braille maps if anyone needs those.
Gotcha.
Some of the maps, too, we can set those up so that they are readable, but they're a real challenge with PDF. I mean, they make noise, but they don't make much sense.
Yeah.
That's just, the way a map looks. The enunciators on some of our vehicles which announce those stops, we had all kinds of shortage
Did you?
parts issues with everything. And I think we're getting most of that fixed.
Great.
But that's been a challenge for us as well. And as far as the digital payment stuff, it'll be such a relief for us. The problem is we have on any given day about 20 to 25% of our passengers pay in cash, and many of those passengers are unbanked. So they're not going to have a credit card, a debit card, and there's no good national solution on how you provide service to people who still need to use cash. So you're probably going to see fare boxes at least for a few more years until somebody figures out a really good answer to that, and then they're going to make a lot of money. But that's the unfortunate part, because probably some of the people that would benefit the most from a digital format don't. They have to come up with the change or the cash.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, there was so much information. I was trying to take it all in. So if you're repeating yourself, I apologize.
That's all right.
You said that since Uber had ended their working relationship, you were moving to Spare.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that an app that's already launched for people to download?
No, we're implementing it. We just got notice from Uber in March. We had to go through the competitive selection process. So we had to do about 3 interviews with each of the companies, the 4 companies that we went through. We inked the contract with them week before last. So we hope to roll that out this month and have it in place before the Uber app expires. It's going to be a challenge for us to reach out to the folks who are using that, primarily residents and passengers along the Grafton-Fairmont Road route and the Mountain Heights route. Those are the 2 routes most impacted.
So if I were to go to my app store, what would I look for?
You'd look for Spare, and you're probably, if you go to Spare, you're probably going to see it'll be branded Mountain Line or Ride
I was
Mon.
looking at their website. I just wasn't sure
Yeah.
if it was launched
No,
yet.
we're not on there yet.
Okay. SPARE.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there some way that you can have a record of the people who have used Uber, that you might get in touch with them?
Yeah, we do. We have a record of them, and we will, as soon as we have the videos and everything in place to be able to use it, we'll engage them one-on-one.
Very good.
And we also give out information on the buses, and Miss Leneve, our mobility coordinator, she goes out and rides those bus routes to actually talk with people on the bus and help them download the app if they need to download it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a hands-on kind
Oh,
of
Kelly.
service. Yeah, and it is the reason we targeted those areas. They're rural. They don't have very high bus ridership. You can't deviate off of the route because the roads are so, they're inadequate for a bus. And but there is good cell service, so people can use the app or the technology. We had a few challenges with folks that were not tech inclined, and our solution for that was if the bus came to pick you up normally at 20 after 10, then we would just schedule an appointment for you at 20 after 10. So the vehicle looks different, but the ride's the same. And so we've had to work through some issues with it, but I'm confident that our folks can get this pulled off before the end of this month or next month. We're not quite there yet. Don't cheat myself out of 2 days. I may need them.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing. They asked the questions that I had about Scott Avenue and Uber, so we are all good, I think.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Tell us the number of rides again. Did you say 17?
Over 18 million,
18.6.
18.6 million since 1996.
18.6.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that's a few
Yeah.
cars off the street.
Couple.
Holy
Yeah.
moly.
That was our only scheduled presentation this evening, so we enter our public portion. Is there any member of the public wishing to address council? Seeing no member of the public, we'll just move along to our items for discussion. Item A, an ordinance amending Article 1718 entitled Vacant Structure Code with Director of Development Services Ricky Yeager and Attorney Ryan Simonton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And as you noted, Development Services Director Ricky Yeager is here to address any operational details or provide additional comment on the ordinance. This ordinance in your packet amends Article 1718 of the city's code. This is the city's vacant structure code. Vacant structure registries are authorized by West Virginia Code 8-12-16C, which is in part, I think, an outgrowth of Wheelan's initiative through the Home Rule program. The city of Morgantown has had one for several years and has had the current structure in place for, I believe, 4 years. This ordinance update is responding to council and staff comments on how the ordinance is currently working, looking for more certainty in defining what constitutes a vacant structure versus an occupied structure, as well as looking to lower the fee for structures that are vacant but remain well maintained, and so are likely to cause less costs for the city in terms of monitoring or future work on the property or emergency response. So the main changes to the ordinance before you are to change the fee schedule to a two-tier structure where a vacant structure that's adequately maintained will be subject to a $100 annual registration fee, which is the city's estimated cost for its process of taking in that registration and doing the inspection that they need to do to make sure everything is maintained well and safe. But where cities that are, structures that are not adequately maintained will be subject to the current escalating fee schedule, where a property that is vacant and unmaintained over a period of years has a higher fee associated with it due to the increased likelihood of maintenance needs that the city might furnish, or emergency service response or additional inspections. There is a definition supplied for occupied structures as well as for some of the property and equipment that needs to be maintained to receive a determination by the building official that the property is compliant with codes and is subject to that $100 annual fee. And the fee payment itself is switched to an invoicing system where there will be a registry and then an inspection, and then the building official and deputy building officials will send a determination of compliance with property maintenance codes and a $100 invoice, or alternately the other invoice. Those are the basic changes included in this ordinance. As I said, if you'd like to hear any more from Development Services, Ricky is here, or I'd be happy to address any questions you might have as well. But we're recommending you move this to your agenda for consideration.
Questions? I think we've been expecting this one for a while.
Move to the agenda.
All right.
All right.
Yep.
Consensus to move it to June agenda.
Thank you.
Item B, up for discussion, an ordinance authorizing a real estate purchase agreement with James L. Loretta Sr. Family Limited Partnership. It says John from Mr. Vrabel from the airport.
Good evening, councilors. City Manager, Mayor. This ordinance is to purchase some property to extend the airport. Basically, right now with the current runway extension, we need a piece of the land to make the extension possible. In talking with the property owner, they were not interested in only selling us that portion of the land. So we looked at the remainder of their property and what they offered to the city, and that entire parcel that they would like us to purchase kind of aligns with future goals of the runway with the airport and extending the runway even further once this extension is complete. So we're probably looking at another 10, 15, maybe 20 years down the road total. But this would align us for all those future possibilities of growth. It also, even though some of the parcels aren't directly aligned with the runway, they would be contingent to the runway, which would allow us further aviation development. So if you look 20 years down the road, our current terminal it'll be 80 years old at that point. It's going to need some upgrades, possibly a replacement. That land, being closer to Saberton, closer to I-68, is the perfect location to build a new facility, or even additional aviation expansion, such as cargo development, maintenance facilities, anything of those sorts, and ancillary businesses that commercially support an airport. So it creates a lot of opportunities for us as a city. It gives us some good expansion capabilities. Also provides for other access to the airport if we so look at development. We can bring access directly from Saberton right in, which would make it a lot easier for our customers instead of taking the current route that is a little cumbersome at times. So.
Questions?
What was the land appraised at?
It was right around 1.5 million. And it's for 105 acres.
Thanks.
Questions, concerns, comments?
Just,
May?
this is wonderful news.
Well, thank you.
Well, I agree. We had a previous council that had the wherewithal to purchase the land for a reservoir that took 20 or 30 years to build. So a little future thinking on our part is worthwhile, I think. I'd move it to the agenda.
Consensus to do so? Okay. We'll keep Mr. Vrabel here. He is also here for item C, an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration at the Morgantown Municipal Airport.
Yep, this is a real simple one. We have about 170 square feet of office space that we're leasing to the FAA for the air traffic manager. The air traffic manager has been in the terminal for over 10 years. Relocated his space several years ago to the current location, which is near the FBO and closer to the tower, which he loved being in that location. Much easier access to his staff and to the flying pilots that are coming in and out of the airports. He can easily talk to them, and they can reach the services of the FAA much easier. The original lease he had expired in September of 21. So he's been there without a lease since then, and we've been working with the FAA diligently to get this resolved, and we're finally at that point. We'd like to get our funds back, so we'd like to get this moved forward.
Move that to an agenda.
Attorney Simonton, I know that you had some back and forth, as he said. We've been doing a little negotiating. It is meeting your
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. There were some standard provisions of FAA leases that just didn't apply to the continued use of this existing space, and those have been removed by FAA at John's request.
Okay. So move to the June agenda.
Sure. Yep.
And we'll just keep him here again. Item D, an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement with Acme Land Holdings LLC at the Morgantown Municipal Airport.
Yeah, so this This leases some nice commercial development for us up near the mile ground. It's on a piece of property that we have no future use for. Even when we realign the taxiway that'll eventually be where the current road is coming into the airport, that area will be just outside of that location, so it's a nice commercial development opportunity for us. And Acme Holdings is looking at a couple different business opportunities for that location. One of them is a car wash. So, for our fleet, for the airport fleet, that would be very beneficial to us because our vehicles never get washed, and it'd be really nice to have a solution there that we could use as well. Plus, it would give us some good revenue coming in, not just from the land lease, but also from the concession of the property. So built into that contract, we have a concession agreement as well.
Questions for Director Rabel?
Good job.
Move to a June agenda. Got it.
Yep.
So much is happening at your airport.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for being here this evening to give us the rundown on those items. We appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And anytime you guys want to come out and visit, you're welcome. Give you
Oh, we
another
should
tour.
set that up again.
Yeah, we're about to have another new council person.
Maybe after the 4th of July, when the current runway project kind
Fly an airplane.
of winds down, that we can show you kind of what's happened.
Okay.
You can actually get a lay of the land and see what
Yeah.
we've been doing over the last 2 years.
I'll be there Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm serious. I have the RSA flight instructor.
Oh, good.
I'm doing that on Wednesday. I'm going to fly the plane.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you flying around.
We'll see.
Hopefully you like it.
You're going after your life.
We'll see.
No, it's a birthday gift. I always
Great.
wanted to fly.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Item for discussion E, an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement with Met Billiards LLC at the Metropolitan Theater. Attorney Simonton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is an update to an existing lease with Met Billiards LLC, which operates the pool hall underneath the Metropolitan Theater owned by the city. It's a lease for 3,800 square feet of space, and is essentially on the same terms as the lessee has been operating since 2019, but updates the fee amount to be more consistent with the city's other leases of space.
Questions?
I'd be happy to address any
about the-
questions.
Que-
Otherwise, we'd ask that you move this to your agenda.
Met Billiards questions.
We want to see it continue. That's a standard in this city.
I know.
And it's at a reasonable rate, and we're comfortable with all that.
Yes, I believe so, Counselor. That we spoke with the owners about that and about the proposal to increase the rate and understand that their space is not the same as many others the city leases. It's a basement area that's not usable for many other things. It's not a highly profitable venture, but one that is a community asset. And so I think those terms reflect that. The city manager's office and finance department were involved in that and working through our standard lease terms to get to something we could agree on.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Move
Yeah.
to the agenda.
Send the agenda.
Keeping up a piece
Okay.
of history in our downtown.
Looks like we'll have a busy June agenda. That brings us to the end of our formal agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Else we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn,
Thank you, Mayor.
unless somebody else has something. I don't want to cut off discussion.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
There we go.
Very good.